Welcome back to the channel, family. If you've never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you are notified every time a new video goes up on SouFLoTV. Another piece has been added to the puzzle concerning the bodies that were found on the JetBlue flight. Originally a few days ago, when those bodies were discovered, when that plane took off from JFK Airport in New York and landed in Florida, where the bodies were found, it was thought that they could possibly be Jamaicans. That was owned by Jamaican media. Shortly after, a few days, a very prominent individual out of Jamaica issued a statement saying, now that we have some more updated information, those bodies are not Jamaicans. The concern within the Jamaican community is fingers are crossed, prayers are up. We hope to God they were not Jamaicans. Now, let's put it like this. Jamaicans are not. We ascertained so far that the bodies were those of young black men. So, whether they were Jamaicans, African Americans, Dominicans, Haitians, they're still bodies of young black men. But if we want to play the division game, we're not like them, they're not like us, we're not the same people, then of course, one will be rejoicing while the others will be in sorrow. So, just to get you updated to the story, this JetBlue flight took many twists and turns. Just in the last 24 hours before those bodies were discovered on that JetBlue flight, it's important for you to keep this in mind, that flight went from, now we know, the Dominican Republic into New York. Then it went from New York into Salt Lake City, Utah. Then it went from Salt Lake City, Utah back to New York. And before that, it was in Jamaica overnight. And then it also traveled down to Florida where the bodies were discovered. The plane had made about 5 different runs in the last 24 hours before the bodies were discovered. So it was kind of hard to say, was it somebody or were these guys who were trying to escape the U.S. to run away into the Caribbean islands because they were on the most wanted list in the USA? Were they Jamaicans, Haitians, Dominicans, any one of those from the places the plane had been, who were trying to escape their own island and make it into the United States of America? It could have been anything and anyone. But one of the things we did say earlier was, we don't hear anybody saying, I'm missing my family members and I think that's them. So one of the smart things to do would be to put the image of the individuals on television. Of course, a lot of people in the comment section, or a few people, said, are you crazy? Put the image. Did you not read that they said that the bodies were decomposed, badly decomposed? Do you want them to put decomposed corpse on television? That would not look good at all. What I was saying was, they could have done a computer-generated image of the individual. Just like how when somebody commits a crime and they use a sketch artist to make up a imaginary person that might look just like the individual who committed the crime, and that image is circulated on television, because they have bone structure, body features, facial features, it would have been even more easier to regenerate a computer-generated image of what this person might have looked like and put that image on television. I was not necessarily saying put the dead corpse, the decomposed corpse on television, but I understand some people's level of reasoning is superiorly below par, so therefore you have to spoon feed them everything. Anyways, here is the update to that. A family now fears that their missing teenager could be among the bodies that were found on that flight in the wheel well. And according to local news, Florida 10 just gave us some information saying that investigators are still working to identify the bodies of the two males who were found in the wheel well of a JetBlue plane that landed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida last week. While the news reporter on one of the channels were reporting this update, she slipped and said 3 bodies were found. And I watched it, and she did not correct herself. So, of course, that leaves us thinking, was it 3 or 2? Because why would the news reporter say 3 instead of 2 and not correct herself? Let's go off of Channel 10 News' latest development out of Florida. It still says they have not identified the individuals yet. However, family, friends, and loved ones of 2 teenagers who are reported missing in the Dominican Republic told Local 10 News on Tuesday that they fear the worst. They fear that those teens could be the ones who were found in the wheel well of this plane, which would make sense. Just like it could have been Jamaicans, it could have been someone from the Dominican Republic. There are a lot of Haitians in the Dominican Republic, could have been Haitians. There are a lot of black Dominican Republic people, so could have been them as well. Not to mention the fact that the plane actually was in the Dominican Republic, and that is where it flew from into New York before it even flew to Jamaica. Which would make sense now, because if that is the case, and if this is who they think it is, their family members, it simply means these teenagers might have gotten onto the plane in the Dominican Republic, and by the time that plane got to New York, freezing conditions, lack of oxygen, those young men died in that plane and were unable to get out of the plane in New York, and the plane was not checked properly and flew to Jamaica with their bodies in it. If this is the case, it also means that 5 different times that plane was supposed to be checked in that area, and 5 different times it was not checked. That kind of says a lot to me as someone who's an avid traveler on planes, specifically taking JetBlue planes. If a check like that is mandatory and it's not done properly, imagine what else could have happened to that plane or been on that plane, which could have caused catastrophic damage. Now, a translator was speaking, and a person named Nelson Rene, who is said to be the relative of one of the young men, through the translator, said that 17-year-old Jay Anilu is his name, and he has been missing from his home since January 3rd. He said that some people in the community suspected that Anilu and 2 other teenagers had planned to escape the country. Now, this makes sense that the reporter would say 3 bodies found and then never corrected herself, even though major news has steadily been reporting only 2 bodies. The individual from the Dominican Republic said J. Annie Lou, the 17-year-old, and 2 other teenagers had made plans to escape the country, and everybody in the community knew it. Somebody here said they told them that they will travel. They will go travel, maybe in a plane or a boat, and they were going to try to escape from the Dominican Republic, is what the family member or alleged family member said. A Dominican media outlet reported that relatives of the other teenager has been in touch with investigators, has given them all the information requested, and they are now awaiting the results of the DNA findings. The whereabouts of the 3rd teenager, for the first time, they clarified and said, "We have no clue." They do not know where the 3rd teenager is. It's 3 of them. It's 3 of them that hang out together. It's 3 of them that plan stuff and do a lot of things together. You know, it's like the 3 Stooges, their little group. And they're young, they're teenagers, and they pretty much told a lot of people in their community, other teenagers and young adults, their plans to do this, to escape the Dominican Republic. Not necessarily to get on this plane and get in the wheel well specifically, but they said they were going to escape. They were going to travel. Either it's going to be by boat or by plane. They don't know how it's going to go. And they've been missing ever since. The investigators said that the deadly discovery was made last week during a routine post-flight inspection. The plane arrived that night from New York JFK Airport, but flight trackers showed that it had previously been in several locations, to include Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Salt Lake City, Utah, back to New York City, JFK, and then finally down to Florida. The newly released 911 calls were captured, and you can hear the urgency of the situation. These planes that came from JFK, tail number 644. But could you please send medical assistance and possibly a police officer, is what one person could be heard saying on the radio. The Broward County Sheriff's Office in Fort Lauderdale, Florida said it will not connect the missing teenagers to this case at this time. People go missing in the Dominican Republic all the time. But a spokesperson with the department confirmed that the county medical examiner's office and that local law enforcement are diligently working to identify the bodies, and they thank these people for coming forward because they have something to go off of. Right now, the translator has said that both families of both missing young men are awaiting answers, DNA testing from the local authorities in the United States. They too, just like the Jamaicans, they have their fingers crossed. They're praying. They're hoping. You would think they were hoping for closure. Okay, if it's them, at least we know where their bodies are so we can bury our family members. No. They are praying and hoping that this is not their family members, They're praying and hoping their family members are still in the Dominican Republic, hiding out somewhere, trying to make it off the island, or made it off the island some other way. So at the end of the day, so everybody leaves this video with the same update on the same page with the same information. A, they still have not identified these bodies. B, now there are faces associated with this case in a distant manner, because there's a family saying 3 teenagers are missing. 2 of them might be the bodies on that plane, because their stories of how they plan to escape the Dominican Republic matches this situation. 3, local authorities in the U.S. have said, we are working diligently. We have hooked up with these 2 families. They have been cooperative and they've given us everything we need. And now we await DNA results. This is where we're at. So 4 and final, the bodies still have not been identified, but we are awaiting DNA results. That's the latest update to this whole saga, family. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. I'll catch you on the next video. It's SouFLoTV. I'm out. Peace.